بس العربية كمان لغة القرآن.
不是因为太吵了。
Языки.
Ну, вы говорите по-русски с семьей.
То есть по-русски мой родной, фарси, потому что я native Turkish speaker
يعني لازم أبدأ الابلكيشنز للجامعة. طبعا كولومبيا بس بريست.
Sasa naweza kusema ama kuelewi lugha.
I feel that language gives you something with which you can connect to another person.
अब जो अच्छा इस किताब के बारे में यहाँ पे लिखा है, ये किताब कुदरतुल्लाह शाह की खुद नविश्त है। एक और
नविस क्या है? Writer?
खुद नविश्त
Oh, was written.
हाँ अपने about his own life.
Oh, okay. Oh, खुद नविस.
हाँ खुद नविश्त.
खुद नविश्त. Yeah, खुद.
Each language is in many ways an expression of how one society or culture thinks. I feel that when I start to speak foreign languages, a lot of times I become a bit of a different person. Perhaps I say things that I wouldn't necessarily say in English. Perhaps I'm more deferential to others. Perhaps I'm more upfront about what I say.
Привет.
Здравствуйте, молодой человек.
Добрый день.
Добрый.
Как вас зовут?
Натан.
Натан.
Добрый день.
Это.
Тебя как зовут?
Привет. Я Тим.
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 Очень приятно.
Очень приятно. И откуда вы?
Polyglot is a word that comes from two Greek roots, poly and gloss or glottis, which together means many tongues, many languages, and it just refers to anyone who speaks 3 to 4 languages or more at a pretty high level.
The term hyperpolyglot, that's the people who have a commitment to learning and maintaining a lot of languages. Most of them really put in a lot of work on it and take pride in knowing these languages.
那可以不可以养宠物？
我真的不知道。
你真的不知道？
可是如果你给我钱，你就可以。
真的吗？啊，好好好，那我得。
I'm really comfortable having a conversation on more or less any topic in French, Arabic, Hebrew, and Farsi. I think maybe a tier down would be Chinese, German, and Russian. I've done a fair amount of Latin and Greek in school, but that's obviously a different skill range for dead languages. I'm pretty comfortable speaking in languages like, Hindi or Urdu, Indonesian. With a little bit of practice, I feel, confident again in languages like Turkish, for example, or, my Italian's not so great, but I feel like I can understand it pretty well. And then there are languages that are a little bit more dormant or that I haven't studied for a while, languages such as Ojibwe or Yiddish or Wolof or Hausa, and then languages that I'm more or less a beginner in, such as Japanese and, Dutch, a couple others.
The languages that we speak as a family, it's really not that impressive. Ezra and I studied French for many, many years, so we can understand French people who are slowed down incredibly.
I lived in Hong Kong for a while. I studied Cantonese, but studying 20 hours a week for a summer, I didn't make anywhere near the progress that Tim made studying 20 hours a week, for example, Persian.
فکر میکنم که پردازش ترین بخشی از یاد گرفتن فارسی فهمیدن تاریخ و فرهنگ ایران است.
In North America, we mostly learn one language as we're growing up, and that language gets to be so good that it interferes with our learning other languages. Tim Donner's talents in the American context are extremely unusual, particularly at his young age. The hyperpolyglots one tends to hear about in the world are older as a rule. So coming up with people who've started really in high school doing this, extremely rare.
Yomu. Yominai?
Yomanai.
Yomanai. Okay.
Tim, he is passionate about learning languages, and for him, this is not just a hobby, and it's basically his way of life. He actually spends most of his waking hours learning languages.
友達に会った？
いえ。いなかった。
会わなかった。
会わなかった。
Right, so I find that most of the time when I'm starting a language, one of the most important things to do is have a lot of audio input. So I generally start out with any sort of series, and I'll try to just absorb the language as much as possible. I think by repeating to yourself over and over, it's a really good way to train.
Tim will watch movies. We've seen many movies in Farsi and movies in Arabic.
Watching TV shows or movies is really helpful in any kind of language learning because it exposes you to the normal rate of speech in a language and maybe a more colloquial register than you get in a textbook. I think it trains you also to be able to comprehend a lot more. You know, I find that when I start a new language and I start watching TV in it, after I'm comfortable enough, maybe I'll understand 4 or 5 words out of 10. And then that really helps because that bleeds over into conversation. So I think watching TV is really the basis of learning in a lot of ways. Plus it's fun.
Bu dilden hoşlanıyorum çünkü ben de Farsça ve Arapça.
I think the internet has been absolutely crucial, for me for learning languages. Anytime I have a new language, I try to post a video of me speaking it with someone or just me delivering some kind of monologue to the camera. And the responses I get are really helpful. They show me, which direction I should go in, what I have to work on still, what I've done well, and that's fantastic.
Giga waba minawa miigwech bizindaw yeg.
I think the great thing about living in New York is that you really can practice any language you want. This is arguably the most linguistically diverse spot on earth.
Est-ce que vos parents aussi parlent?
Mes parents, non, malheureusement, non. Et ils ont pris français à l'école, mais non, ils parlent seulement anglais.
Vous êtes un génie, monsieur.
C'est pas vrai.
Oui, c'est ça. Parlant. Parler finlandais. Ce pouvoir communiquer juste avec toute cette langue. Oh mon Dieu, c'est fantastique.
Merci.
For me, there are plenty of things that are fascinating about languages. Primarily, it's the fact that, as a bit of a history nerd, you can see in any language the entire history of a people and its interactions with others. For a while, when I was around 12 and 13, I had a very big interest in learning about the Middle East, especially the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So I thought that by learning a language, I might be able to break through the wall that's been built around it. A little bit after my bar mitzvah when I was 13, I started to teach myself Hebrew.
עברית הייתה השפה הראשונה שלמדתי אחרי אנגלית. אני התחלתי ללמוד לפני שנה וחצי.
After I learned Hebrew, I thought that, I maybe would be quite successful in teaching myself languages. So after that, I decided to try Arabic to get the other half of the equation in the history of the Middle East.
بس يعني كمان كيف العلاقات بين المسيحيين والمسلمين في مصر دلوقتي؟
ما كانش كويس مش كويس عامة مش كويس.
وحتى اليوم I feel that by studying languages, by looking at their development, by looking at what's old and what's new, you gain a greater appreciation for society's values and for just its entire history. It's something that's a little bit hard to communicate and may sound a bit disingenuous, but that's sort of the breakthrough that I had in studying it. There's this idea that seems to circulate, which is completely false, that Americans don't like learning about other cultures, Americans don't like learning foreign languages.
Alors, Manuel, c'était vachement un plaisir de faire votre connaissance.
Moi aussi, monsieur.
I hope that, I can do my part to disprove that.
Et j'espère que vous parlez plusieurs mots, d'additionner plusieurs langues.
Exactement. Alors, la langue prochaine, le créole.
Oh, ben oui.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, monsieur.
I think if you raise people with other languages, you open them up to foreign cultures, to foreign ideas. And again, in the future, in a world that's increasingly globalized, you give them, a solid opportunity for more connections as they grow older. There's a quote from Nelson Mandela which goes something like, if you talk to a man in his second language, you're talking to his brain. If you talk to him in his mother language, you're talking to his heart.
आप इसी तरह से मेहनत करते रहें, इंशाल्लाह आप बहुत आगे बढ़ेंगे और मुझे बहुत उम्मीद है तुमसे और मैं बहुत खुश हूँ इस लैंग्वेज को चुना है और अल्लाह तुम्हें कामयाब खुदा हाफिज Thank you very much.
I'm Tim وأنتم بتتفرجوا على Thinker. أنتم مستقلين Thinker. Alla Thinker och nagah mi koni. Ni men känns kan Thinker. Hallå.